Welcome to the Cheating Secrets channel. We hope you enjoy today's story.
I hate it when she answers my question with a question. Without thinking, she does it every damn time. Regardless of what the question or answer is, she always responds to my question with a question. She always does this. Megan, what's for dinner? Does it look like I've cooked? Megan, where do you want to move the chair? Harold, did I say I wanted to move it? Megan, you look sexy in that teddy bear outfit. How about messing up the sheets? What? Don't I look sexy in my flannel pajamas? It doesn't matter what the topic is. My questions are always answered with a question. The only time she couldn't respond to my question with a question was the very last question I ever asked her. What's the question? 5 simple little words with a question mark, but the hardest question to answer. Why should I want to stay? This is the only question she couldn't answer. The sad part was, I knew she wouldn't be able to answer it. Cheaters never can. They can give you typical nonsense. But when it comes down to it, they don't know the answer. It just makes them see the truth. From the beginning, I should have known it would come to this. My marriage was doomed from the start. I should have just listened to my father and followed the rules. My father taught me 10 rules that a man should live by. 1. Life is fun until you mess it up. 2. Work is hard only when you don't want to do it. 3. If you want to know what your wife will look like in 20 years, look at her mother. 4. It takes a strong woman to be a good mother. 5. Friends are a dime a dozen, but true brothers are forever. 6. Never give your wife all the money. 7. Cheating costs half, no matter what the judge says. 8. Looks fade, but beauty lasts forever. 9. If it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, and quacks like a duck, then it's a damn duck. 10. There are no women worth dying for or going to jail over, so always plan, and come up with the best way to get revenge without leaving any fingerprints. My dad always said that if mom disappeared and her purse was still there, it was one of 2 things. She ran away, or he kicked her out. If he kicked her out, her purse would stay because he wouldn't give her anything. My father always spoke loudly enough for my mom to hear him. Son, she'll leave with what she came into this marriage with and nothing more. I always wondered what makes a person so tough. It was one of those little life lessons I learned later. I've never been a fan of telling my life story, so I won't. But I will give you a brief summary. I was born in North Texas into a good family, and my father kicked my ass every day. Sometimes I deserved it, and sometimes I didn't. My mom was the backbone of our family. My sisters Kelly and Ann were always there for me and my younger brother Carlton. Carlton is a jerk, but overall, a good brother. Then there's Megan. I met Megan in 8th grade. She had big teenage boobs, and for me it was love at first sight. We didn't date until my 2nd year in college. From that point on, she was my girlfriend. For those of you wondering why it took us so long to become a couple, ask her dad. That man was like Old Yeller, you know, the classic dog. If a guy got within a foot of his daughter, he'd bark like a damn bloodhound. It took him 3 years to let me sit on their porch, and another year just to call her. And then, it always seemed like he was eavesdropping on the phone before she could ask him if I could take her on a date. He'd yell, and no. So believe me when I say he shocked the hell out of me when I asked for permission to marry Megan, and he said, "Yes, son, you can." Son, that bastard just called me son. For the last 6 years, I've been called bastard, fucking idiot, dim-witted fool, and not least of all, king of the assholes. But now I'm his son. Wrap your head around that. For me, married life was wonderful, and our honeymoon was absolutely amazing. At the time, I was 22. Life with Megan was anything but boring. For the next 15 years, life was tough but good. We worked, we played, we made love, and we had kids. In fact, we had 3 children, Tommy, Jessica, and Paul, our little angels. It was only in our 25th year that everything blew up. The only thing keeping me from leaving the country was the kids. 2 out of 3 were out of the house, and the 3rd was about to leave. Tommy was studying at the University of Florida, Jessica was at the University of California in Knoxville, and Paul had just graduated high school and was heading to Gainesville. But, being a teenage boy, He just had to have one last night of fun at home. Paul behaved like an idiot and tried to drive home drunk. He crashed into a pole and ended up in the hospital. He was in critical condition. Megan and I rushed to the hospital. They removed his spleen. He had a damaged lung, and he needed a kidney. He urgently needed a donor. The doctor asked if he could run a blood test to see if I was a match. Megan gave us a strange look, as if trying to figure something out. Then she said, Damn. You don't need to worry. He's not Paul's father." I stepped back and looked at her. I moved to grab her, but the doctor stopped me and said not to do it now. I asked her what the hell she was talking about. The doctor told her she needed to get Paul's father here to save him. I turned and walked away. Then I stopped, turned back, dropped my wedding ring on the floor, and went into the room to see Paul. Even though I might have considered that he wasn't my son at that moment, I just wanted him to get the help he needed. When Megan and the doctor entered the room, I turned and left. The doctor grabbed my arm and said I needed to stay because Paul needed both of us right now, so I stayed. Later that evening, Paul's father arrived. About an hour later, my brother Carlton showed up. I was about to go and tell him what was happening when I saw that they were taking his blood. Paul's father was Megan's brother-in-law, my brother Carlton. Then he, the doctor, and Megan left the room. I had my answer. Carlton came in, trying to explain what had happened. I walked out of the room. It was too much for me to handle. When I reached the waiting room, Carlton's wife, Abby, was sitting there with her head in her hands, crying. I didn't know if it was because of Paul, or because she had found out about Carlton and Megan. Either way, it didn't matter. Both situations were messed up. The doctor approached and asked if he could talk to me for a second. He told me I needed to pull myself together and be there for Paul and Megan. They'll need me. I asked him, how am I supposed to do that? You're such a big, tough guy. Tell me, how can I be there for this piece of trash? She just told me that my son is my nephew. She slept with my brother for God knows how long. But we know it's been at least 18 years because Paul is his son. And how am I supposed to be with Carlton? I can't call him my brother anymore. What kind of brother sleeps with his brother's wife and leaves him to raise the kids? But since you're a doctor, maybe you can give me something for this. Maybe you can get me some glasses to detect cheaters. Do they have a post-affair pill to remove this trash in my brother from my life? Maybe you know a way to erase this filth from my memory. I thought so. So get the hell away from me and try to fix Paul. You can't help my marriage or my life. The doc shook his head, then turned and went back to Paul's room. I approached Abby and asked what Carlton had told her. She said that all 3 of my kids are his. Carlton said that Megan told him I was infertile. This was news to me, and how would she even know? I had been in the hospital only once, and I was 10 years old then. Something was going on, and I needed to find answers. It was 11:30 the next morning before the doctor told us that Paul would be okay. Carlton's kidney was a perfect match. I was heading for the exit when Megan and the doctor caught up to me just as the door was closing. Megan tried to grab me, but the doctor stopped her. I would have spat in her face. Megan asked where I was going and what about our son Paul. I found it funny, our son. I turned and walked away. I got home around 2:30 in the afternoon after a short stop at Home Depot for a couple of lock sets. I changed the locks on the house. Then I started packing Megan's clothes. I had packed 4 bags before I got the first call. It was her father, wanting to come over and talk before I did something stupid. You know what I asked him? Come on, Dad. Why would I do something stupid? Before he could say another word, I slammed the phone down. While I was packing Megan's things, I thought about Paul and everything that had happened. It made me reflect on all the long discussions in my psychology class. Nature versus nurture. Did Paul's DNA make him my son? Of course, in my heart, he was mine. From the first moments of his life, his first steps, the first time he caught a football, his first fight, his first date, his first kiss, the talk about the birds and the bees, all of that made him my son, right? But when he truly needed his father, the truth was that I wasn't. When he needed blood and a kidney, both of which I would have gladly given him, I couldn't. At the moment when he really needed it, I could only sit there helplessly because Megan turned out to be a cheater. The moment the doctor said he needed a kidney, he wasn't my son. My family name would continue, but what about my branch of the family tree? There would be no Harold Paxton branch. Sure, there were 7 offshoots on Carlton's branch. 4 kids he had with Abby and 3 with Megan, which made Carlton the family stud. I had to stop thinking for a while because I was giving myself a break. I walked over to the fridge, grabbed a beer, and sat in my recliner. I had just turned on the TV when I heard some cars pull up. I didn't move. I just sat there, drinking my beer and listening to them knock on the door. It sounded like there were 4 or 5 people. They had been knocking for about 10 minutes when Megan pulled up. I think it was my father who told her to use her key to open the door. I bet they were all surprised when her key didn't work. After finishing my beer, I grabbed the gun from the table, walked over, and opened the door. I asked my father what they wanted. My father asked why I had a gun. I told him it was to keep out unwanted guests. I asked them again what they wanted. My father, acting as the spokesperson, asked if they could come in and talk to me. I told them sure, as long as Carlton and Megan weren't with them. Megan sat on the porch crying while Carlton tried to show me how much of a man he was. That was until he heard me slide the action on my Desert Eagle. I think that was the moment they realized things weren't going to go as they planned. So, for the next 2 hours, they talked. Everyone knew except for Abby and me. I couldn't believe these people were my relatives. My father, the man who taught me how to handle a cheating wife, now wanted me to live with her. It's strange how becoming grandparents can cloud your judgment. Son, she did what she had to do. She gave you the family you wanted. You need to calm down and understand how Megan felt. I didn't, and wasn't going to try. I'd had enough. They could all go to hell. I will never understand how a woman who wants a child can justify sleeping with someone to accomplish her goal. Is there any difference for a man who wants to have a child with his wife only to find out she can't give him one? Oops, I forgot. Only women are allowed to cheat according to these guidelines. Apparently, only another woman can understand what it's like not to be able to have a child. I guess men don't need families, and they don't want to see their child grow in their partner's belly. They don't feel the joy of caring for their loved one, their life partner, during that time. Maybe I'm not a man then. With all the nonsense they were spewing, and it was just bullshit, about how I needed to think about the kids and how to keep the family together. They fed me all this crap about how a woman can't be blamed when she can't have children, and that women are emotional beings who need to continue the species. Then they hit me with this blessing from above. That's when I lost it and told them all to get the hell out. She's a damn cheater, a crap, and she had my brother's children. That's a blessing? If that's a blessing, I need to change my beliefs. It turns out my mom told her that I couldn't have kids because I had yellow fever when I was 10. She told Megan but forgot to tell me. What a mom. After I kicked them all out, the kids showed up about an hour later. They said Megan had called them but told them to go to her parents' house first. They came home first instead. I spent the next hour explaining to them what had happened. I didn't hold anything back. Jessica didn't believe it. She called and set up an appointment to have blood drawn for a DNA test. Then she planned to meet with Megan. Tommy said it didn't matter because I was his father no matter what. But he agreed with Jessica's plan because he needed to know. The next day, we all went to the hospital, checked on Paul, and then had our blood drawn for analysis. After that, Jessica went to visit Megan while Tommy and I watched over Paul for a few hours, then returned home. Needless to say, the atmosphere at home was very tense over the next few days. On the 3rd day, we received a call from the hospital. The results were in. It turned out that only Jessica was mine. Tommy got angry and left because it meant Megan had been cheating since the 2nd year of our marriage. Less than 2 years in, she got pregnant with Tommy within 18 months. I filed for divorce the same day the results came in. I handed my lawyer the DNA test results. I didn't want 50-50. I wanted everything. You see, I firmly believe in equal rights. When a man cheats, everyone shouts, "Take him to the cleaners." Don't get mad, take everything. But when a man is cheated on, it's, "What did you do? Are you sure? Maybe it's hormones?" You need to give her some help instead of divorcing her. I can't tell you how many friends I lost in the following days. I lost both my parents and relatives because they had known all along. At the final meeting, Megan asked for 30 minutes alone. After 25 years of marriage, 23 years, and 4 months of lies. But who's counting? I figured I could sit and listen to one more lie. Even during our last meeting, everything was in question. Harold, wasn't I a good wife to you? Harold, think. Did you miss anything? After all the love we shared, do you really want to break us up? I mean, really? Harold, why do you want to leave? I gave her 30 minutes, but in the end, I asked her one question. It wasn't a difficult question, but it was the only one she couldn't answer. I spent the next 10 minutes summarizing everything that had happened in the last 2 years of our marriage. Then I asked Megan, why should I want to stay? Then I got up and left. The divorce was finalized in 90 days. No alimony from me, no child support, nothing. Megan ended up paying me $350 a month in alimony for 5 years. There was no house to put up for sale. I gave the house to Jessica. I lived there rent-free. When it came to our finances, I had no job, which meant no salary. I quit the day before the DNA test results came in. She had cheated on me for over 20 years, and some judge was going to make me pay her for that? I had no money in the bank. I used it to pay Paul's medical bills. Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. The only good thing was that Abby came by to inform me that my parents, along with Megan and Carlton, were planning to ambush me to talk and become a family again. Abby and I spent the next 3 hours making plans and having fun. Carlton was a fool because Abby had a 38 DDD. I won't tell you what else she had because I wanted to use it again. But by the end of the day, Paul, Tommy, and I were set to go on a cruise during their visit. When we returned from the cruise, Jessica informed me that my lawyer was ready to file a lawsuit against Carlton for 23 years of unpaid child support. We asked for $350,000 per child. College, cars, and everything else. After all, kids are expensive. As soon as the lawsuit was filed, Abby filed for divorce. I never adopted Paul or Tommy. They didn't want that. They knew I was their father, if not by blood, then by my love and presence in their lives. Paul said that no one could make me a real cuckold just because his mother messed up, but I didn't. Tommy agreed. 10 years have passed. I'm 62 years old, with 5 and 10-year-old children. My wife Abby is 52. Yes, Abby told me. I'll never admit it, but I enjoy spending Carlton's alimony on nice things for my children. And no, I didn't marry Abby out of revenge. It doesn't bother me at all to flaunt our relationship in Carlton's face. As for Megan, she told Jessica that she would wait until the end of time and one day win me back. Even Jessica laughs at that. My parents keep pestering Jessica and Abby. Please ask Harold to visit us. We're going to die soon, and he'll hate himself for not being here. I hate myself for missing out on the lives of those who tried to cuckold me while calling themselves my loved ones. But to forgive them? That's unlikely. I might consider forgiving them on my deathbed, but even that is doubtful. After all, they're 80 and 82, and they still have Carlton. It's time for me to go. The kids will stay overnight with Jessica and Paul. I've been eagerly waiting for Abby to return, and I'm feeling quite excited. She want to put them in the car. I think I'll still be feeling this way in 4 hours.
Thank you for being with us and listening until the end. If you found it interesting, please subscribe, give us a like, and leave your comments. And we'll see you on the Cheating Secrets channel.